Speaking to Mark Dekker after defeat to Northamptonshire in your final game, how are the guys feeling after this one, Mark? Because obviously you were coming into it after the disappointment of not quite getting the job done against Durham. Was it hard for the boys to kind of get their minds right for this one?
No, Ben, not at all. I, I think if you say that, that would be an excuse, and I don't think this group of lads is about excuses. They wanted to play, they wanted to win, and they wanted to get a performance in. The fact is, we didn't, and we've had a pretty honest conversation as to what we need to do, and that's fine. We spoke about the two ways to view days like this, and it's a moment of honesty. And if that moment is honesty, you need to recognise it and say, okay, what do we need to do to be better? Because ultimately, that's what it's about. Um, Not a great experience, but yeah, we've got to sit down and look ourselves in the mirror and say we weren't good enough, and something has to happen.
Obviously, you won the toss and chose to bat first. What was the thinking behind that? Clearly, at that point, you're not expecting to be 15 for 4.
No, not expecting to be 15 for 4. A used wicket. We've played a game on that before. There was talk about is the wicket doing a little bit too much, and my feeling is no. They bowled some good balls up front. I don't think our batters got out. I think their bowlers actually got us out. So no credit to them. But comfortable with the decision to bat first, and had we batted with more application, I think might be the right phrasing. I think it's a 260, 270 wicket. I think the moment we start blaming the wicket, and I've always said it right through, cricket lends itself to finding reasons not to succeed. But don't blame the wicket today. They made it look pretty good.
And like you say, obviously their seam bowlers did well up top, but then Yuzi Chahal as well, who Kent Sports all know well, showed what he's so good at.
Yeah, that I must admit that was a bit of a surprise. And but again, it's especially for our younger players, we can't hide from. We don't want to be hiding from players like that. You want to be going out and enjoying the challenge of playing against him. And if you fall short, that's absolutely fine. Understand why you fell short and say, okay, how do I get a bit better at it? Would we have batted first? Would we have bowled first? We've always batted first, and we'll still stand by that decision. We thought later in the day it might take turn, and I think the decisions were right, executions were wrong.
And obviously coming together at 15 for 4, you talk about young players and experiences for Akansh Singh and for Jaden Denley to find themselves together in that scenario was obviously a learning experience.
Yeah, funnily enough, I was actually sitting with Paul Downton, just having a catch up with him, and I know how hard he worked for Kent about bringing the youngsters into the game and valuing our academy. And we turned to each other and said, sometimes this is what it's about. We've got two of our homegrown players out there. We're 15 for 4, facing an international spinner. Doesn't get better than this, So it was a magic moment, and they were really good until the moment they got out. So you take some solace from that and some excitement from that, for that matter. I love the fact, both of them were 18 years of age, both of our academy, and I think that they're going to be pretty good for us in the future.
And obviously that's part of what this competition's about. How would you kind of assess the competition as a whole? Because had things gone different on Sunday against Durham, you could have been in the hunt for a knockout place today.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And I'm sure someone will find reason to find me wrong, but I do believe we still could have qualified. I would say, there were 2 games where we massively outperformed, which was this game and the game against Middlesex. But as for the rest of the games, they could have gone our way. Some did, some didn't. We can talk about a batting unit not firing, but actually the group fired and we got our 260s, which we didn't quite defend. We were 3 and 8. I don't see, with a little bit more luck, we could have been 4 and 8, and we could have been 5 and 8. But that, ifs and ands or pots and pans, eh? But I still maintain that we were probably 4 and 8 would be a fair reflection of where we could have and should have been.
And we've talked about this before. Do you stand by the sort of selection policy that you had going into this tournament? Obviously, members will look at the obvious and say, could have been Compton have contributed in a way that you'd have had an anchor man in some of those innings.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
And they're absolutely right. He could have been an anchor man. He's a valuable player. He's shown his skills in red ball cricket. But if we're talking about the medium-term strategy of the club, will he feature in T20? What direction does the club want to take T20 players, and who we're investing in, I think that's the bigger picture. It'd be easy. Compo would have done brilliantly. He's a class player, but that's not the direction of Chef is taking the club's white ball side.
And in terms of the championship, which is obviously coming next, obviously you've now had your stint as One Day Cup head coach. What do you think guys can sort of take into that championship period? Because obviously it's a few key games, and they're obviously trying to stay up. We've seen, guys in the last couple of games, obviously Harry Finch and Jack Leaning get back into the runs, and a lot of bowlers have had overs in the tank and experiences. So how can the group kind of jump from this back into championship cricket and go about their business to try and stay up, do you think?
I think a big positive for us has been the bowlers. So right at the outset of this Metrobank competition, there was a sharp focus around bowlers' plans, executions, their clarity of thought, working as a unit, and I think they've been absolutely brilliant and delivered that, and hopefully that's going to continue into the Champo. It sort of lends itself to this idea of how do we get 20 wickets, and getting 20 wickets in a champion match is very hard work, but hopefully some of the stuff that's been put into play here, which has created a bit of confidence, can carry over. Batting, we'll obviously get a lot of batters back, so the batting becomes possibly a little bit more, there's more depth to it. But again, some of the conversations we had around our batting after today's performance was actually how purposefully are we training our batting. And we sort of led off our bowlers. They've been really purposeful in training. They've been really purposeful in their off-field conversations. And we might have missed a trick around our batters. I think there's a bit of assumption that we've got a good batting unit, and we slipped up on that one. Certainly the coaching staff, we'd probably have to hold our hand up and say we could have created that same sharp focus for our batters.
How have you found it as being a head coach? Obviously a learning experience for you as well, I guess.
Yeah, it is a learning experience. I suppose it doesn't matter for me anyway. I think every game you become emotionally invested in. And I sort of was trying to reflect on my emotions. Am I more emotionally invested because it's a first team side? And I would say probably not. When I'm with the second team, I still have the same emotions, and I still have that same, I suppose, desire and want for the players to do well and for them to improve. So that hasn't changed. I suppose we get back to coaching philosophies and why we coach, and I'm pretty comfortable that my coaching philosophy is coming from a pretty stable place.